All right. uh, Before I begin, I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone entering this new year. Fucking blessed. Stay blessed. Be blessed that we made it to decade milestone. Uh, it hasn't quite yet. I haven't quite yet. Took it all in that we're in a new decade. I don't know if I'm supposed to feel different or not. It's supposed to be like a huge thing, but yeah, I just kind of feels like another day, you know. But regardless, I know it's a huge feat. A lot of people didn't make it this far, so congratulate yourself on making it this far. No matter where you are in life, whether it be struggling, not be happy for those struggles, man. It's always a blessing. It's a blessing to still be walking. All right, man. With that being said, I have mushy shit in the way. Another thing before I begin, this podcast in particular, I'm done saying this is a podcast about everything because it really isn't. This is a podcast about music. This is a music podcast. New year, new me. I'm coming straight forward with this shit, dog. This is a new year. This is a music podcast. Nothing else. Well, actually, there's a lot more things that I discuss on this podcast, but main thing is music. Main thing is music. So, man, with that being said, let's do this shit, man. You know, we gotta start the new year right, man. Enough old problems, fuck them, dog. We starting this new year right. Come on, man. Come on. Fuck what other people say, man. Do you this year, this decade. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between. Welcome to the Case Study Podcast. I'm your host, Isaias Hernandez. I'm just here to give you guys a good time, man. That's all I'm here to do. Hey. I'm just here to give you guys a good time, so let's talk about some shit, man. And today, we're doing a decade recap on music. I'm gonna do a year recap, and then I'm gonna do a decade recap. Because I got a lot of shit to talk about, man. I do. Music-wise. Alright. Beautiful Jersey weather, man. Beautiful Jersey weather. Never disappoints, man. Let's get into it, man. I'm ready to talk about some shit, man. Woo! Come on, let's talk about some shit. Alright, enough of that. Let's talk about some shit. So, yesterday, 2 days ago, the day you're watching this, was the last day of 2019. A lot of people have said it was a very lackluster year for music. I agree in the sense that there were no exceptional, probably a couple, like with the exception of maybe one or two albums. There were no like exceptional projects. They were all pretty solid. They were good. Album wise. That goes for hip hop and R&B because if you don't know, I listen to both a lot. I want to use my platform to talk about the top 10 albums that I thought were the best this year in particular. And let me tell you, coming up with this list was hard. Right here, I got about 25 albums that came out this year that were that I liked and enjoyed. There's 25 albums here, and I had to narrow it down to 10. And I know before I start talking about this list that I made, the top 10, understand that it is my own subjective and very biased opinion here. All right, subjective and biased. Keep that in your mind because I didn't make this list with no one in mind other than myself. So I guess we could get into it. I know there's albums too that I forgot, but I really just wanted to focus on the ones that I thought were the best this year. So let's get into it, man. Number 10, and give me a second. Number 10. So number 10 was Ventura by Anderson .Paak. This album came out earlier in the year. I'm not sure exactly what month, but it was one album that maybe if it had came out later in the year, I would have ranked higher. But because it came out so long ago, and I keep in mind that when I skimmed through these 25 albums that I have here on this list, but I didn't really get to listen to all of them. This album, if it had came out like, I want to say a couple months later than when it originally came out, originally came out, it would be higher on my list. Anderson .Paak does a tremendous job of incorporating R&B and hip hop and putting it into one album. This album is the textbook definition of him doing that, and he's just such a talented person. All his beats, I don't think he misses one step on his beats in his beat selection. He can rap, not to the level of some of the greats, obviously, but he can rap. He can sing too. His choruses, he can accurately assess a chorus and make sure it's on the right song and on the right beat. A lot of artists can't do that. His ear for music is amazing, and I think this album, it just shows. And then I want to see the track list here. Look at this. Come Home, Make It Better. Yeah, man, an amazing album. Amazing. So, oops, let me not do that. I'm gonna break some. That's my number 10. So, number 10 is Anderson .Paak, and actually, I'm gonna open another tab. Number 9. Moments Spent Loving You. Not a super popular album. This is an R&B album. I think it was one of the more underrated albums of 2019. There's not a skip on this album. It just flows cohesively, like from one song to the next. It's an album that you have to listen to in its entirety. Xavier Omar and Sango really did a nice job of just putting their best foot forward when it comes to music. These two in particular haven't had the best track record in recent years, and this album I think makes up for their lackluster albums in past years. In my opinion, again, this is my opinion. Yeah, man, that's number 9. Number 8. Ooh, number 8. Oh wait, shit. I keep forgetting that I'm trying to do a tab each for the albums. Number 8. Ooh, what an album. Plugs on, man. This is a rap album. Just so spice things up. This is a list that incorporates both R&B and rap albums just in it, and it only is a measure of my enjoyment of the albums, if that makes sense. I'm not grading the quality of music. I'm only grading the enjoyment. This album wasn't the best produced album, but I think that was done intentionally. Like another album on this list that I'll get to later, it has a very grimy feel to it, and I think it was intentional. This album is straight pure bars, and I love it. It's fucking amazing. It's an album you can just sit there and before you gotta do an activity that requires some amp up, you listen to. You listen to the lyrics and you dissect it, and then you see what people are saying on the list. Benny the Butcher, amazing album. Features, by the way, the features on this album with Black Thought, Jada Kiss, 38 Special, the features on this album were second to none. They all matched and they all came to rap. Amazing album. I can't give enough props for this. It would be on higher on my list if it were longer. It was only like 7 songs, which was kind of left me a little bit disappointing, a little bit wanting more. But anyway, what are we gonna do? It's number 7. Moving on to number 7. Oops. Escape from New York by Beast Coast at number 7. This album is an example of my New York bias and my East Coast bias hopping out. I'm not from New York, I'm from Jersey. But I think anyone from the tri-state really fucks with artists from New York, the New York area. This album was a collab album between like 9 to 11 New York artists, and they just sat down and made music together. It's an album a lot of people really didn't like because they couldn't differentiate the voices at times. It got very confusing to who was rapping and who wasn't. It had Flatbush Zombies, the 3 members of the Flatbush Zombies, Joey Badass, the Underachievers, which were 2 more. It's a pair. And there was a couple more, but I just can't think of it right now because it's a lengthy album. It has a lot of songs in it, and it has a lot of names on it too. I enjoyed it because I recognized most of the names and voices. I could tell who was rapping and who was giving the bars. That was a main knock on this album. When I first heard it, I couldn't really tell who was rapping and who wasn't. But then my second and third listen, I got it, and then I started rolling with it, and it does a great job of incorporating bars and a great production, because the production on this album was amazing. Beat selection was great. They're also rapping on it. So just like unlike this previous one, the production wasn't the best, but I think that was unintentional to give it a grimy feel. This one, the production sounds pristine and clear, but you really they're rapping. They're not trying to do anything else other than rap and flow. I appreciate artists like that. So that's why it's number 7. Number 7. So let's do, where am I at? Number 6. Ooh. Chasing Summer. Chasing Summer. It would be my favorite R&B album this year, if not for another one that I have higher on the list. This album had everything that I want in an R&B album: singing, vocals, the features. The features on this album, not only do they fit perfectly, it's like kind of back and forth between Sir and whoever he's featuring with. It flows so nice, such a cohesive album too. There's not really nothing else to say other than it's a good album, and that's the thing about good albums and good projects. You can't really say a lot on it because the music speaks for itself. So I encourage everyone to go give these albums a listen if they haven't heard these albums. It's just cause me trying to explain it and then you going listening and then listening to the quality of music, it's 2 completely different things. So I encourage people to go take a listen to these albums. My decade list is where I'd be better able to explain why I have them on the decade list. So yeah, Chasing Summer, amazing, phenomenal album by Sir. That TDE group, man, that TDE group is something crazy. There's something special. Kendrick has an ear for music. It's something special. So let me move on. All right. Number 6. what would Shingun do? Much like Plugs I Met from Benny the Butcher, Griselda takes it back to the essence. They really do. Like, this is what hip hop is. If you're not gonna go back and listen to the '90s, the albums that were dropped in the '90s and early 2000s, and even you can even say '80s, listen to this album, and you'll catch that same vibe that the Mobb Deeps were projecting, the fucking, and I'm not the Wu-Tang's, Slaughterhouse's even, that type esque rap. These guys do it. Benny the Butcher, Conway, and Westside Gunn. An amazing album, amazing from top to bottom, no skips. I think it would have been better if. Actually, never mind. Let me not say no skips, because I do think that the album was just a couple songs too long, and that's why it's only number 5. I mean, did I say 6 or 5? This is 5. This is number 5. That's why it's lower. I mean, it's like mid list, because I feel like there were a couple of skips on it, but there's some songs on this album where you could just take it back to the essence. And there's nothing better than music that could put you in a place, in the time and place. So that was number 5. Number 4. Ooh. Alright, give me a second. My internet is acting stupid. Oh no. Why no? Hey yo, we not about to do this. Of course. This is fucking stupid. Alright, anyway, number 4 was fuck it. Then if you wanna act stupid. So number 4 was All My Heroes Are Cornballs by JPEG Mafia. This album is this high on the list strictly because, oh wait, here we go. Strictly because of its production. The production on this album is the best that I've heard this year by far. Not only is the production really good, he's also rapping on the songs. It's like the beats, they're weird. So you need, like, it is a certain type of person that can only listen to this type of music, because the beat selection is weird, and like it's very I'll say alternative rap, because that's what it feels like. But very, very good production. And go listen to this album to see what good production sounds like. It's amazing. I can't say enough. And again, I can only do so much with my words. I encourage everyone to go listen to these fucking albums, because they're amazing. All right, number 3. We're winding down here. Number 3, Snow Allegra. I called this album my favorite album of the year, but when I thought about it, a couple other albums edged it out. And this is Snow Allegra. Those feels again. This is the type of R&B that I really enjoy. Subjectively, it's slow, but there's a message. The songs flow from one song to another, conveying a message, like a bigger picture message. Not only that, but you can take the individual songs and you can listen to them like that. So not only does the album have a larger picture, a bigger picture is trying to tell. This each individual song, you could just take it out of the album and you just listen to it. It's an amazing album. I don't want to call it a side chick album, because that's not really what it is, but nonetheless, it's a great album. Number 2, Nah, let me move on to number two, cause number two. Number two, I struggled with because there were two albums that I have at number two. It is. So this is number 2A. I cheated, but whatever. Oops. Come on, dog. Alright. 2A is Eve, Rhapsody. Woo, I did not know Rhapsody could rap like this. Now, I knew she could rap, I knew she could spit. I've heard freestyles and I've heard previous records, but I didn't know she could spit like this. One of the best albums, one of the best new, I want to say, I'm going to call her new because I know she's not a new act, but I'm going to call her new because not a lot of people know who she is, unfortunately. And she deserves that type of recognition. So, one of the best new artists to come out this year. What a debut project. To fucking put your foot on the necks of others. This album was good. This album was good. 2B. I cheated. I did, but I really couldn't decide of what album I wanted to not put on this list. 2B is Freddie Gibbs, Bandana. Another one of those albums that that really capture the essence of what hip hop is supposed to be. A grimy, produced, rigid beats, tough bars. It's fucking like, man. If there's not another way for me to describe this type of music, and it's amazing. I love it. I'm such a sucker for this type of music and R&B. But I encourage everyone to go listen to this album. If you're not going to go listen to any other album, to this album, because I know number one you have all heard, and I think y'all know what number one is anyway. I encourage you to go listen to this album and Eve. If you're not going to go listen to any other albums, I'm cool. This album and Eve. Hip-hop. Straight hip-hop. And it's amazing. It's fucking great, dog. Let's see. Now, number one. I think you know what number one is, because I know what number one is. And I'm pretty fucking stupid. Number one. Hey, yo. Come on, cuz. This shit is... How was your guys' day? Was it good? My day was shit. It's like, nah. Dog, look at this. Oh my god. Alright, no, whatever. It doesn't even matter. Number one is Igor by Tyler the Creator. I think this album, it put Tyler the Creator finally in the class that he belonged, which was a person that does a true artist in the same class that a Kanye would go in there, or Pharrell would go in there, or you know what I'm saying? Igor put him in that different class. That album successfully did it. It's an album that is short, but I'm not sure really how to describe this album. I personally don't consider it a hip hop album. I think it's more of alternative music and R&B mixed together. There's a couple verses on there, but not really verses because he's not really rapping. The features there's a couple on there, but it's not really. I think the spotlight more is deserving on him and the music he created, because he created something on this album, it's something unique, different to him. He finally successfully elevated himself into that different class of artistry. Alright, so let me go through my list again. Number 10, Anderson .Paak Ventura. Number 9, Xavier Omar and Sango, Moment Spent Loving You. Number 8, Benny the Butcher, The Plugs I Met. Number 7, Beast Coast, Escape from New York. Number 6, Sir, Chasing Summer. Number 5, What Was Sheen Gonna Do by Griselda. Number 4, JPEG Mafia's All My Heroes Are Cornballs. Number 3, Snow Allegra's Ugh, Those Feels Again. Number 2A is Rhapsody's Eve. Number 2B is Freddie Gibbs' Bandana. And number 1, and it still hasn't fucking loaded up. Here we go. Never mind. Tyler the Creator's Igor. Best album this year, I think. Best album this year. So that does it for my top 10 albums of the year. I think the list came out pretty good. I think I'm definitely missing some albums, and I didn't even do honorable mentions. But this is a subjective list. This is my list. I don't expect anyone to have remotely the same close to the same list as me. And yeah, man. What else do you want me to say? So, moving on. Let me move on, man. Let me move on to the top 10 albums of the decade. I'm trying to do this quick because I've already been here fucking forever. I knew this would happen. Let me do this. Alright. I'm trying to do this quick. So number 10, decade list. Again, completely subjective bias, and don't put any stock into this list because it's numbered. It's only my favorite. It's my favorite only. Don't go on thinking I'm saying this is the best. These are the best albums of the decade, because I don't think they're quality of music wise. There's some albums on here that I definitely left out. But anyway, with that being said, let's go. Let's get into it, because I've been here for a while. Number 10. Number 10. Royce the 5'9". Royce. One of my favorite artists of all time. Royce the 5'9". Number 10, The Book of Rhyme. This album is amazing, and I'll give the same little context that I gave my other list, which was I can only explain so much. I can only do so much to put you in here. And all these albums, by the way, on this list, I think are flawless. Not one skip, not one nothing, except for number 1, which is probably the craziest thing. But number 1 is the only album I think on this list that is flawed. And I'll get to why I think this is my number 1 album of the decade. But anyway, let me Book of Ryan. Royce the 5'9" is probably the most underrated hip hop artist ever. He doesn't ever get the love that he deserves, and it's very saddening to see someone so talented not get the love that he deserves. And I had to mention him here. Not only is this a phenomenal project, it's one of my favorite. It's one that I go back to often. And all these albums I listen to often, so they're fresh in my mind. That was number 10. Number 9. Number 9. 2014 Forest Hills Drive. This is a real personal album to me. It's one of those albums that I remember listening to when when I was younger, and I was in a different moment in my life. I was in a different phase in my life, and it was just one of those albums where when you listen to it, it draws back memories of those point in times in your life. That's this album for me, and a lot of other albums on this list. But this one is specifically because this is when shit started to change for me. Phenomenal album. J. Cole does an amazing job on this album. I think this is his best body of work. A lot of people can argue his mixtapes and his earlier albums, but I think this is his best body of work. I think he put his best foot forward on this one, and I think he knew it by the marketing, by the way he marketed this album, and the way he marketed this album really tells me. Excuse me. The way he marketed this album tells me all that I needed to know what he thought about the album, not only in regards to the quality of music, just as an album as a whole as well. So that was number 9. Number 8. Again, East Coast Boys jumping out here, man. East Coast Boys jumping out here. Number 8. Oops. Vacation in Hell. Flatbush Zombies, Vacation in Hell. Another one of those albums where it can take me back to a time in my life where this was the only album I was listening to, and it was a very life-changing moment in my life that I was listening to this album. Not only do I think this album was fucking amazing and still production-wise, especially production-wise. That's one thing that these New York artists don't get enough credit for, is their production on songs. I know Atlanta gets a lot of credit for that, but New York and East Coast people, their production be on point. An amazing album. Go listen to this album if you haven't. I don't think Flatbush Zombies gets enough credit, the credit that they're due. I think they helped usher in a new wave of rap. So go listen to this album, man. Number 8. Number 7. Ooh. Number 7 goes by my namesake almost. Isaiah Rashad's The Sun's Tirade. Isaiah Rashad sadly hasn't put out any music after this album. I think it was released in 2014 or 2013. This album was one of the first albums that really got me into a further level in hip hop, where not only was I listening to the mainstream J. Cole's, Kendrick's, XYZ mainstream artists that were getting radio play, he opened the door for an entire new plethora of artists to listen to and choose from. Once again, this album I think is flawless, and I'm gonna just keep saying that. So that's my number 7, man. Number 6. Number 6. Number 6. And honestly, number 6, and this is gonna go for another artist I got lower on my list too. I could just put Mac Miller as an artist, number 6. I put Swimming here because it's my favorite Mac Miller album. But really, in all reality, I enjoyed all of his albums. Every single one. Watching Movies with the Sound Off, The Divine Feminine, Swimming, and Good AM. I think Mac Miller is one of the most underrated album artists of this decade and of all time. He hasn't missed with an album yet, in my opinion. This just happens to be my favorite Mac Miller album. And that's why I put it up here. So number 6 really is Mac Miller because all his albums I think are flawless. But again, that might just be me biased as hell and not being able to objectively look at it because I like him as an artist and him as a person or the person he was. Rest in peace, Mac. But yeah, man. Number 6 was Swimming. So let's move on to number 5. Number 5. This might come as a surprise to some people. It's Amigos' album. No Label 2. At number 5. This album did what the Isaiah Rashad album did to me, which is it opened up a new door for different type of music and artists. This is the Migos' best project. You cannot argue with me that this album is not their best project. And I'd say it's the best project by a landslide. But they got a couple good ones. I like Wiring too. They got a couple good other projects that are pretty comparable. But by a landslide, this album is their best. Perfect album. Not a skip. And I know it was a mixtape before it became an album, but that's neither here nor there. I don't think there's really nothing really separates a mixtape from an album anymore. With that being said, again, it opened up the door to not only for me to listen to music like this, to music that focus on flow more than lyrics, and beat and flow more than lyrics. It opened the door to a lot of other artists too. This album and Finally Rich, which is honorable mention on my list, by Chief Keef, Finally Rich. These two albums did that for inspired an entirely new generation of rappers to do what they're currently doing now. Number 4, and this is it's a Lil Wayne album, but it's not probably the Lil Wayne album that you're thinking of. I'm Not a Human Being Part 2. I think this is his most underrated album. Lil Wayne's. I think it's better than the Carter 4. I think it's better than the Carter 5 even. I think it's better than a lot of his mixtapes that he put out this decade. I'm talking about this decade. I think this is his best project of this decade. And that might just be me subjectively talking because, again, I can put myself in moments where I was listening to this type of music and I was doing shit. And I remember the shit I was doing. But I just think this album embodies what Lil Wayne is as a person. If you want to know who Lil Wayne is as a person, go listen to this album. Every single song defines who Lil Wayne is. And I think for a person, for who you are, not regardless of the music you're trying to make, of who you are, I think that message is often forgotten in music a lot of the times. And Lil Wayne put his heart and soul into this one. And it's evident. So that was number 4, I'm Not a Human Being Part 2. Again, this is not a list that judges the quality of music because I know there are better albums that came out this year than that, but it's just a subjective list. Alright, number 3. Kanye West. Someone who fell really from the level of music that they were producing. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is one of those albums that got me into music. It was an album that introduced me to listening to music in general. not only was it one of the albums that introduced me to listening to music, I also think it's Kanye West's best album. I think it's Kanye West's, like, it doesn't have a skip on it. It's I just think it's his best album. I don't know how else to say it. So yeah, man. There's not really much to be said about this album because the quality of music for this album, and I can say this wholeheartedly about these next, well, the next project too. These albums, the quality speaks for itself. I don't the this music that's on this list, the music that's on this list, I don't think it requires someone for someone to explain it, and that's why I feel like I'm doing a poor. I'm not doing the music justice. So that's why I encourage you guys to go listen to this type of this music. So yeah, man. That's number 3. Number 2. Number 2. Oh. And number 2, this being number 2, like I said with Mac Miller, I could really just put Kendrick Lamar here because I enjoy every single. He hasn't missed with an album. He's another artist that has to go down as one of the best album artists of all time. He has not missed. Not only has he not missed, I think every single album that Kendrick Lamar has dropped has been a classic. This is just my favorite album. This just happens to be my favorite album. You can include this one with Damn, To Pimp a Butterfly, Section 80. I think I'm missing one, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Good Kid, Mad City. Amazing. Exceptional. Love it, man. It's just, when people can create this type of quality music, it separates them from a discussion from anyone else. Before I get to number 1, and I did say that number 1 was my only flawed album on this list, ironically. I have to talk about these couple albums before I get there. I have 3 honorable mentions here. Joey Badass is Badass. That's the name of the album. Badass. It's an album that I really enjoy. I don't think it's a perfect album like the rest of these. I think there's flaws on this album. I think they're very minuscule though. Only someone listening to the flaws would be able to pick it up. And yeah. Chief Keef's Finally Rich. Not only was the impact of this album, the impact cannot be stated enough of this album. I also think that this album did a phenomenal job in changing the landscape in music. It was ushered in by artists like Kanye West, and then it was pinpointed down like by artists like Chief Keef. He was 16 when he made that album, and that's the craziest thing I find about that album. He was 16. He's only like 23 years old now. And my last honorable mention is Pusha T's Daytona. I would have this album in my top 10. I would probably be able to fit it in my top 10 somewhere, but I think it was too short for me to put it on the list. And that's my only knock on that album, was that it was a bit too short. So let me get to number 1, man. What do you guys think number 1 is going to be? I'm going to surprise you guys with this one, because I've been adamant in my dislike for this particular artist. My number 1 album is Recovery by Eminem. Let me explain this one, because I know the music people watching this podcast are going absolutely fucking nuts. But let me explain this one a bit. This album, I said it about the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy one, but this album was really the first one that I ever listened to. This was the first ever album I listened to in its entirety. And this was the album that made me fall in love with hip-hop. Without this album, I don't know if I fall in love with hip-hop the way that I did. listening back to it now, I can hear the flaws and I can hear why people don't like this album. And there are a couple actually even tracks on the album that could have been completely cut off from the album to make it a better album. But nonetheless, it was an album I heard when I was 10 years old, and I thought, wow, music is something different. That was the first thing I thought when I listened to this album. Music is something different. Music is powerful. And that's it, man. That's my top 10 decade list. Let's go through it one more time. Number 10, Royce da 5'9", Book of Ryan. Number 9, J. Cole's 2014 Forest Hills Drive. Number 8, Flatbush Zombies Vacation in Hell. And I'm standing by that one too. Number 7, Isaiah Rashad's The Sun's Tirade. Number 6, I'm going to say Mac Miller's Swimming, but Mac Miller in general, his entire discography, because it was all released throughout this decade. Number 5, Migos No Label 2. I'm sticking by that one too. Number 4, Lil Wayne's I Am Not a Human Being Part 2. Sticking by that one too. Sticking by this entire list. I'm doubling down on this fucking list. Number 3, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Number 2, Good Kid, Mad City. Amazing album. But again, Kendrick Lamar. Damn, To Pimp a Butterfly, Section 80. I think Section 80 was released last decade, but it doesn't matter. It can still fall into here. And number 1, Recovery. That number 1, I know it fucked with some of y'all. I know it did. But that's my decade list, man. I just wanted to do a wrap up because I'm gonna try to push to make this music podcast more, but I still want to focus on talking about absolutely everything. So, yeah, man, let's get the fuck out of here. It's cold in here. It is cold. Let me find a sound to take us out. It's cold. It's cold. So, this might be my longest episode ever. Let me find a song here, man. Actually, I'll play one from my top 1 decade song of all time. Actually, no, let me not do that because, I'm not gonna do that. Never mind. I'll play one from my top 10 2019 albums. So let's get the fuck out of here, man. Remember, be safe and stay safe. Your life could change with a phone call, so make sure you fucking take advantage of your life, please. I urge everyone, your life could change with a phone call. I'm getting out of here, man. I'm kind of hungry. My ass is kind of hurting here. What else is there to say, man? I'll be here next week. I fucking promise. Oh my god! Another one in the books, man. Another one in the books. I'll catch you guys next week. I'll be here. I promise.